Circling. I lay struggling and kicking on my mother's breast, unable to tolerate her good milk, even as they rolled my wrinkled, speckled body over to change the soiled sheets once again. I waited in a red jacket for the yellow school bus on that first sunny day of kindergarten, while at last I could no longer grasp the wriggling glyphs on any printed page. The older generations slipped away continuously in front of my children's eyes, but they too touched bottom at last, stood up, and began slowly to emerge. I asked him of his plans, and he recounted some of his more vivid memories. They were, as it turned out, willing to sacrifice for a future they would never see. Voices on the airwaves mingled with the live stream inside my head. In the land of dreams, at least, I accepted these things without their making sense. I always felt I was growing nearer the happily just before the ever after. Putting him in the ground, I watched from a huge leafless oak as others lowered me. The times tables were like rhymes to me, so I learned to sing them all quite well. He asked me how many fingers he held up, but I could not really be too sure. I spent a lot more time with the people who had left me behind the older that I got. No, I never returned to the homeland, where they still walk with me in the courtyard. Later on, I found it much more difficult to relearn how to crawl. My chubby bow legs did not yet effectively support me, so I walked with uncertainty. I am totally invisible in the purple lilac bushes of that sunny garden. As the starch nurse approaches, I pull the stiff, rough sheets up and think that I am hiding. I have a recurring nightmare where I wake from a good dream that I can't quite remember. Awakened again that night for the first time, I understand when Mom tells me it's not real. My life seemed as short as the years now seem after having seen so many. In third grade, I was sure that June would never come, but that summer would last forever. For many years, I returned with worms I had dug for those trout by the old bridge. My uncle showed me how to bait the hook and told me I must watch my bobber. When I was 4, one day I thought back as far as I could and finally came to nothing. The older I got, the more I saw how fast the void rushed at me from all directions. I finally realized that things whirled around me much more quickly than I ran. Holding my thoughts, I can take a long, cool dive down into the dim, green past. After breakfast, we just stayed out by the lake for long summer days on end. I should apologize to many I no longer remember, and more I never even noticed. Sometimes my father disappoints me with an unexpected glance from an unseen mirror. I remember her dirty flip-flops and how she cried when she could not see the eye chart. I kept crossing my own tracks, but it looks like they all lead off to nowhere. They got me cleaned up and well enough to go and spend the night at Grandma's. All things were possible as I set off with my dad early on those Saturday mornings. Often I hope we have enough time for the sun and snow to bleach our bones together. We wrestled savagely for what seemed like an hour in this side yard by his house. Looking back now, there is no way to recover that path I took to get here. I gave thanks that God had made me a boy and not an old lady or even an adult. Groping in the darkness for direction, we did not describe straight lines. Staying below the superheated smoke, we dragged the heavy fire hose. The doctors found it difficult to treat the burns on an infant as small as myself. They could understand my words, but we could no longer have a conversation. I kept on trying as they helped me to evolve my first attempts at language. They performed an elaborate Christmas ritual, which I have completely forgotten. They carefully placed a birthday cake on my chest after managing to sit me up. I floated like an astronaut with a lifeline plugged into my belly button. As my consciousness slipped away, I felt myself rising at last far up into the stars.